So there are a total of 30 rings in Stardew Valley, but let's be honest here, you really aren't ever going to need all 30, and as you progress you'll unlock some really powerful ones that make so many of the other ones completely obsolete. The problem is you only have 2 ring slots, so things can get pretty complex and you might be wondering, well, what's the best ring combination for me and my playstyle? Well, I'm here to answer that very question, or try to at least. I'll be listing what I believe are the ideal combinations for each type of player, and then I'll save how to actually obtain them for the end of the video. But as always, everything is marked with video chapters, so feel free to go ahead and skip to that section if you're interested in that. And this is your heads up, some of these rings might involve some late game progression to craft or unlock, so with that in mind and a stash full of rings to consider, let's dive into what I believe are the best set of rings for each type of player. Earth, wind, water, fire. Much like the 4 elements, this also happens to be the perfect classification for the average Stardew Valley player. Yeah, I'm serious. Earth. This is the farmer. They love to buy and plant seeds, plan out the entire season to maximize their crop harvest, and they are obsessed with money. This type of player tends to stick to their farm, but they'll occasionally go into town to socialize. They love the customization factor of the game. They'll spend hours decorating, stress over the smallest details, but absolutely put on their game face when it comes to payday. If you're sitting there feeling extremely called out, then I have some ring recommendations for you. For you, I would recommend the Hot Java ring and the Lucky ring. The Hot Java ring is very useful for the occasional mine trip, as it'll allow you to hoard a whole bunch of coffee from defeating monsters, and that is super nice to have around the farm. The Lucky ring increases your luck by 1, and if you didn't know, higher luck increases the chance of a whole bunch of things, like rare farm animal drops, more lightning during storms, or even the chance to double a harvested crop. So clearly that's very useful around the farm. Once you've unlocked the Volcano Forge, I would make a combination of the Lucky ring and the Java ring, and for the second one I would choose the Lucky ring again and the Iridium Band, which is essentially a combination of 3 other rings. This way you're ensuring your luck stays high, you're easily able to grind coffee, and you have a few other standard buffs. Wind. Much like the wind, this player has literally no direction. They aren't too sure what they love to do the most, so they spend a little time dabbling into everything. They don't obsess over just one aspect of the game. This type of player tends to spend most of their time just walking around town, interacting with townfolk, and wondering what they should do next. They tend to make a mental checklist, but then forget half the things they were gonna do anyways. If this is you, congratulations, you and I are not so different. This playstyle is much more of a relaxed one, so getting the ideal ring combinations are very general, because you never know what you're going to be getting into. For you, my recommendation is the Iridium Band and the Napalm ring. As we mentioned before, the Iridium ring provides some great basic stats, like 10% increased damage, creating a glow around your character, and attracting items. And the Napalm ring makes monsters explode, so that one's pretty self-explanatory. No, but seriously, this allows you to break stones in the mines and damage other monsters, all while not damaging yourself. This is a pretty well-rounded loadout in my opinion, and once you've unlocked the Forge, I would combine the Hot Java ring and the Vampire ring, which heals you for 2 hit points every monster you defeat. Which I know doesn't seem like a lot, but it absolutely adds up and frees up plenty of inventory space with all that food you won't need to carry. Water. This one is pretty self-explanatory. This type of player tends to gravitate towards anything that involves water, which for Stardew Valley usually means fishing. You'll typically hear, "Man, I love when it rains," every single time that it rains in-game from this player. They insist on playing on the river or beach farm and try to convince everyone else that buying an iridium fish rod as soon as possible is the right investment. If you go to this person's house, you'll without a doubt find a very impressive aquarium. They're also usually the last person to go to bed in-game because they need every second of the day to maximize profit. If that's you, then my recommendation would be the Lucky Ring and the Iridium Band. We already covered the uses of these two, but especially with the Lucky Ring, it'll increase your chances of pulling up treasure chests while you're fishing, which is huge. For the second combination at the Forge, I would recommend yet another Lucky Ring as well as the Hot Java Ring, to help you get to your favorite fishing spots as soon as possible. Fire. Typically the most chaotic players, these guys fight fire with fire. This player loves combat and spends most of their time doing extremely drastic things like going as far down as they possibly can in the Skull Cavern, creating as many mega bombs as their evil little pockets can fit, and they're bloodthirsty. They usually get sent out by the rest of the crew to do the dirty work. On top of this, their ultimate goal is to create the strongest weapon possible in the Volcano Forge. If you fit into this checklist, then there's no doubt you care a whole lot about combat. Since this is extremely combat focused, we want the rings that will make you an absolute powerhouse. Which is why I recommend the Burglar Ring, which greatly increases the chance that monsters drop rare items, and the Napalm Ring, which again is fantastic because it just makes things blow up. It's really as simple as that. Once you've unlocked the Forge, I would recommend the Iridium Band for those extra stats and the Phoenix Ring, which can revive you back to 50% health once per day. The Phoenix Ring is insanely useful for getting into those dangerous situations, especially in the Skull Cavern. So now that you've seen the best combos, we'll cover how exactly you can get your hands on them. In total, we covered 7 different rings, so let's see how we can get each one. For the Hot Java Ring, this one can only be found in the Volcano Dungeon's rare chest on Ginger Island, with a drop rate of 1 in 9. If you're already grinding for the Forge, this is a great reason to revisit each day. Moving on to the Lucky Ring, this can only be found as a drop from monsters in the Skull Cavern, or very rarely from panning. I know, right? Crazy, panning actually has a use. But my recommendation would obviously be to try and get it as a drop in the Skull Cavern. Next up, the Iridium Band. This one actually isn't too difficult to get, it just requires a bit of grinding. This ring will cost you 5 Iridium Bars, 50 Solar Essence, and 50 Void Essence. The Vampire Ring is another pretty simple one to get your hands on, as this one is rewarded to you from the Adventurers Guild for defeating 200 bats. Similarly, the Burglar Ring is another reward from the Adventurers Guild, although this one requires you to defeat 500 dust sprites, so you'll have to spend a bit of time on the icy floors of the mines. The Napalm Ring is yet another reward from the Adventurers Guild, but this one will require you to defeat 200 serpents, so you'll be spending quite a bit of time in the Skull Cavern for this one. And finally, in order to get the Phoenix Ring, you'll once again have to explore the Volcano Dungeons on Ginger Island for a rare chest, and this one also shares a 1 in 9 drop rate. And with all of that said, that just about covers what I believe to be the best combination of rings for every type of player in Stardew Valley. If you have any different combinations that you tend to use, feel free to share them in the comments. That's all from me. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider dropping a like or subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. See ya.